got crushed the other day. I was like talking to her, I was like, sorry, I couldn't make it to crush the other month, like my first year. She's like, cool. I need to find people to read the next one. Do you know anyone? And I was like, don't say yourself, Jay. I was like, oh, I don't know. And she's like, you write it, right? I was like, yeah. She said you said that. I did. She didn't say anything. So, yeah. I told her in the same way. Yeah. I was like talking to her about it. She's like, oh, that's the everybody white guys reading that now. Yes, so. I'm happy that I break that glass tonight, finally.
Where is the crush these days?
I think they're doing it at like
yeah, I did last summer. I've got this great category.
Where one of those summer crushes is when I had my realization about like all these people, like brand school, like where I see all these people.
Yeah.
It's like I've never seen any of these people in a reading before, but they also know each other. Like,
Oh yeah,
brands and
they have
brands.
power and just
Yeah.
They're older and they
Yeah, I know. Brands school. Every time I take like a workshop now, I'm like always like immediately excited for it. Like, it's gonna be great. Like do it, it'll work. I want to do it.
Yeah.
Then by like the third session, like I hate this. I'm so anxious. How am I going to do this? It was bad at school.
Yeah, that was the vibe. I had a grad school rotation a few years ago where I was in the classroom, I was like, this is ridiculous.
I think if I went to grad school, I would go for something totally unrelated to writing, but I don't actually know if I'm qualified to do this thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like an 8 of these.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, that's right. It's 20, 6 minutes away.
Yeah. Sounds good something.
I was curious. I just wanted to go because I never knew they were going before.
Yeah.
But it's so close. It's like, I would just like, because it's every freaking writing program. So just be going to see everything. Like, that's not my style at all. But it's just like, those people have all this job.
Pretty cool. You do that, I go.
Alright. Oh, what you got?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, sure. It's oh, you know me. Alright. Just whatever you guys have something.
Oh, I'll cover. Whatever. I trust you. It's so hard because I like it. So like I can sit on this here.
Yeah.
Trying to do this.
My recent like workshop, you guys don't like Zoom? It's a big issue. If I like, it's hard for me to like look up the inserted with them to like discuss things in class, and when you actually add things to Zoom, when you have to like unmute yourself and be like, it's a little harder. Take a few. Right now I'm in a 20 subways of work meeting group. I'm doing it. Part of it is in person. Like there's some people that are meeting when he's in person, some people that are zooming in, and I'm part of the in-person cohort, which is why I'm wanting to do it. But the director is out of town this week, so it was all on Zoom yesterday, and it was a mess. And like, you got people talking, then you have like a whole other discussion in the chat going, and I just like couldn't focus. Like,
We try to figure that out. I checked out really.
now
been a couple of months and that might be the end. Just white.
I understand the idea of living pretty successful.
Right, absolutely.
But also like, is there anything that in person that is also accessible?
Right.
Not dependent on technology and like, having Wi-Fi connection paid for, I don't know, like a cam laptop or something paid for, like.
I wanted so much to come to your thing, and I was ready to take this off. I'm so used to not having it, So, anyway, so I had a babysitting commitment some months ago with my son. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. No, I won't. No, no, no. You'll see, baby.
You're gonna have that persona of like drive energy.
but I'm saying, keep yourself down. So when the poem's coming, just keep yourself down.
Now when I don't need it.
No, it's not the only. What's up?
I just
Yeah, no, they don't need.
I'm Bakar.
Car? That doesn't sound familiar either, but okay.
Yes. That explains it.
Okay, so I'm gonna send it to you.
So it's a real event, and then you added like fictional characters as a part of it. That's right. But this is a novel? Wow. So it's not a play. That's great. And that's a shame that you didn't have it on back. I have it on now. For your talent. There's a woman who was part of the Yeah. Was involved. But she was too young. Right. She was young. But she knows the people who were involved. Who know this? Or know people who. So I didn't read a lot of that. I was like in and out, but I was so I wasn't sure that I was very proud of her because that was the time of real they went to the hospital. They went to that church. Actually, they go back to London. To inspire. Yeah, so he was very good. That I know. And it wasn't too much. It was a very conservative, very conservative, you know, like their aunt went there, and they've been very conservative. They didn't do things, I mean, they did the people who went to parade and stuff like that, they were very conservative. And then after the young lords took over, they served. To tell you the truth, I don't know where they are now. I don't know if you get a sense of it. You did a reading with them. I don't know who's involved. You have to do the reading of their
That was part of,
But I dated the guy.
but that's not a different calculation. That's why it's yeah, I can get
But I heard the minister was a woman, I don't know, I didn't get like, I got a lot of that old-fashioned vibe, you know?
yeah, I don't know.
You know, very hierarchical, very from the top to the bottom. So I don't know, but I know that even the fact that they went to the board became the young board. That very little change, because that was in my experience, and we're talking about, you know, 25 years, 30 years, that's what my experience.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We talk about it.
Hi, welcome. I'm Kyle Dukoyan. I'm the Executive Director of the Poetry Project. I'm really grateful to be here with you tonight. I'm so excited to experience readings with you from Karina Del Valle Schorske and Sheila Maldonado. I have been thinking about place in my preparatory dreams for this event. And that is partly because I find the work of Karina Del Valle Schorske and Sheila Maldonado so alive with the friction, sweat, singing, and negotiation of encounter. Place in their work feels both ancestral and in the future, deeply familiar and estranged, a soil or air of arrival and departure. Where are we? Does that question ever stop? Or does the persistence of the question become itself cartographic? We are, some of us, in St. Mark's Church in the Bowery, a venue we acknowledge as situated on the unceded homeland of the Lenape people within Greater Lenape-Hoking, and a structure whose physical violence, whose physical history is inextricable from generations of wounding, displacement, and bondage. As the site of Peter Stuyvesant's family chapel, built using stolen Black lives and labor on stolen Lenape land, we acknowledge that this has been and continues to be a place of infliction, even as we reach imperfectly, if sincerely, toward repair. Can poetry claim any utility or ambition toward repair? I'm very persuaded by the possibility of no. I'm equally persuaded by the different sincerity many voices bring to this question. I think in the poems, translations, and essays of Karina Del Valle Schorske, we locate an honest pendulum of hope and critique. What can language elicit, name, and conjure? Where does it fail? And what make the terms of failure? How do we reckon with the hauntings of speech, its etymologies of violence, colonization, law, and subjugation? Movement, and embodiment drift into this work as some other plane of expression, words and touch pouring into one another? Can movement be repair? And if it is there some manner of naming to make it glow in our transmission? Some method of utterance which does not become too much a limitation? In the forms and inquiry of this work, the writer welcomes a study of the body in all its accident and impermanence, its intuition, which is a kind of reverence for contact, what we discover in our humility toward difference and unknowing. Karina Del Valle Schorske is a poet, essayist, and Spanish language translator at large in New York City. Her writing has appeared in the New York Times Magazine, Lit Hub, The New Yorker Online, the Los Angeles Review of Books, Small Axe Salon, and elsewhere, always elsewhere. She won Gulf Coast's 2016 prize for her translations of the Puerto Rican poet Maria Gloria Palma, an ongoing project. She's currently at work on her first book, a psychogeography of Puerto Rican culture, forthcoming from Riverhead and tentatively titled No Es Nada, Notes from the Other Island. Wherever you are, there is always another island to see through to. Please welcome Karina Del Valle Schorske to the poetry.
That was so beautiful, Kyle. Thank you so much. I forgot what it feels like to be left out in public and read so well in these invisible times, disembodied times. But we have Miss Danielle Polanco here presiding over the scene, and this is kind of a throwback, but it's the first. I'm going to start by reading an excerpt from the first chapter of my book that I wrote. And I talked about this essay a lot with Sheila as I was writing it. Sheila's been a historian of these times and a historian of Puerto Rican New York and all its contagiousness. The most Puerto Rican among us, Sheila. And we all know it. And then, I'm going to read a few excerpts. I kind of drifted over from poetry to prose inexorably in the years I've known Sheila, which was through a poets organization, Canto Mundo, though I feel like we first really bonded at a poet's, Yesenia Montilla's book release party on the dance floor. So that's going to be our guiding metaphor and practice today. When I fell for the video girl in Omarion's touch, I never thought I'd come to know her name. I loved her for her low-slung baggy jeans and spangled bustier. I loved her for the wave arranged across her forehead, her sly smile, and most of all, of course, for the way she moved. In the video, Omarion spots her with her girls as she's leaving the club, and soon they involve each other in a pedestrian duet that elaborates the walk home along the lines of a Cuban rumba, frankly sexual, magnetically relational, but rarely, barely touching. What won my attention was an unusual liberty in her movement, unconfined, it seemed, by a tightly choreographed routine or a proper place in the staged urban environment, and a looseness in her waistline I can't help calling Spanish. In Latin music, lyrics linger less over hips and ass, lavishing attention on la cintura atómica, la cintura sueltecita, as the locus of sensual movement, maybe even the primary engine of Latin culture's successive explosions. Marking the waist as specifically Spanish doesn't really check out in a diasporic vocabulary that includes whining, belly dance, even hula. But that's how I responded to her body, with recognition. I followed the current that ran up and down her torso, briefly electrifying each gesture as if it were a spoken phrase that would resolve into a statement. I wanted to know where the meaning would land. I didn't expect to see this dancer again. Maybe I couldn't see past the way she'd been cast, as a girl who appears suddenly in the chaos of the club, then slips back a moment, an hour, a day later, into the city's unsyncopated working rhythm. Blink, touch. This was 2005, before the internet's full power was at my fingertips, before I could feel confident that Omarion Video Girl would yield a name, a resume, a world. I didn't try. For years, I'd returned to her on YouTube, exhibiting her to friends and lovers, an avatar of erotic freedom, improvisational play, anonymous genius. I wanted her to be noticed beyond the terms the screen had set, and I wanted to be noticed for noticing her. Pop culture teaches us that backup dancers are beneath notice. They're not real artists, and the pleasure we take in them is primitive. They are not suitable emissaries of culture, even if culture wouldn't be any fun without them. There are no prominent prizes for video girls, no credit roll at the end of the concert naming names. When we pick favorites and mimic their moves, our mothers make sure we know not to aspire. Backup dancing is not aspirational. It's a no man's land where brown girls are liable to languish, underpaid, and overworked. It's one wrong turn away from sex work. When Cardi B brags, "I don't dance now, I make money moves," she's minimizing the difference between the kind of dancing she used to do on the pole and the kind of dancing done on other stages. Neither one, she seems to say, will pay. These messages have posed a problem for me because I grew up in a time and place in which every Puerto Rican you'd ever heard of was or had been a backup dancer. The distinction between was and had been didn't matter that much because the fact that certain individuals had achieved star status did little to reduce the stigma of salacious amateurism that lingered with them. Especially before Lin-Manuel Miranda, Sonia Sotomayor, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went to Washington, the prototypical Puerto Rican in US consciousness was dancing girl emoji, skin tone tan. Probably she still is. Even the nation's youngest congresswoman is haunted, or rather refuses to be haunted, by her younger body, flopping across the rooftops of Boston University in 2010. As a dweeby tween, I wasn't ashamed. I liked being noticed in relation to something sexy. But I see now why my mother was. There's an implied analogy between the backup dancer and Puerto Rico itself, as if the island exists first and foremost for the empire's entertainment, as if Puerto Ricans can be famous too, so long as we know our precarious, paradoxical place. Official policy refers to Puerto Rico as a commonwealth, but it's really a shadow colony in plain view, hypervisible especially in relation to the colonies most Americans don't know or name: Guam, American Samoa, the US Virgin Islands. The United States government sometimes refers to Puerto Rico as the shining star of the Caribbean, a phrase dreamed up for a mid-century publicity campaign designed to attract business investment to the island. But this special status has not protected Puerto Rico or its diaspora from myriad forms of colonial extraction. Puerto Rico is both empire's shining star and, in the notorious words of US Senator William Bate, a heterogeneous mass of mongrels. There are too many of us, mass, and each one of us already contains too many, mongrel. When changes in US economic priorities have displaced Puerto Ricans from Puerto Rico itself, we've become backup bodies in cities like New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Orlando. By the late 20th century, Puerto Ricans made up the largest immigrant group in New York City. Life hasn't been much better stateside, but there is still an important sense in which the Puerto Rican pseudo-citizen moves freely, in relation to her cousins in the rest of the Caribbean and Latin America. She won't be deported exactly. Instead, she'll spin in a perpetual motion machine. All of these myths and policies converge on the body of the Puerto Rican backup dancer. The consolation prize for second-class citizenship, really for lack of sovereignty, has been cultural nationalism. We can shimmy and shake all we like, get loud and proud about how well we do it. But even when the backup dancer gets to be a star, she's on the blink, appearing and disappearing like the bright spot on the nocturnal satellite map before and after Hurricane Maria. Over the years, there are certain stars I've come to count on that seem to have achieved a steady glow. Rita Moreno, for example, Rosie Perez, Jennifer Lopez. Invoking them in sequence like that suggests a progressive history, a lineage in which I secretly attempt to situate myself. But the more I read into it, the less it feels like history, and the more it feels like a cut-rate carousel. I'm stuck on the constant costume changes these women have hustled through to appear against the backup dancers' odds as names we know. Despite the individuality that stardom confers, they've passed through many of the same institutions and come to many of the same professional crossroads. Sometimes they have literally danced in each other's footsteps or played the same roles. They stand out from and stand in for New York City itself, a few recognizable forms in what the performance scholar Jana Brown calls the multi-jointed body of the female tableau. She's talking about Black vaudevillians at the turn of the 20th century, but the image translates. There's a complex pleasure to getting lost in the crowd. She goes on to quote a contemporary of Josephine Baker's. She was just a chorus girl, baby. We all were chorus girls. But it's hard to hear her tone. Is the chorus girl jaded, disabusing us of the glamour we associate with the star, implying that she can never really rise above her station? Or is taking the star down a peg a way to hold her close, to include her in movements movements all? Growing up, I wanted to be included, even especially in the mass of mongrels. I knew Senator Bate didn't mean to make it sound like so much fun, at least not on the face of it. But by the time we get around to the 1978 Rolling Stones song, Miss You, Mick Jagger is sure the way to sound American on R&B radio, the way to sound Black, is to growl, "We're gonna come around here around 12 with some Puerto Rican girls that's just dying to meet you." I like singing along, accustomed, like women of all backgrounds, to extracting pleasure and power from pop music's misogyny. Sometimes I still do. Maybe I was particularly vulnerable to crude seductions because our family was the opposite of a crowd. Me and my mother in California, my grandmother in New York, no siblings, no husbands. Until I left the Bay Area for New York when I was 18, my direct relatives were the only Puerto Ricans I really knew. I was grateful for my Chicana friends at the private schools we attended on scholarship. We began our political lives together. But culturally speaking, they didn't really know where to place me, and I wasn't in a position to help them. If Jennifer Lopez implied an urban world teeming with around-the-way girls and spontaneous block parties, I was eager to be implicated. In Sami, Audre Lorde's erotic memoir, she articulates her mother's longing for her natal island of Grenada. She missed the music you didn't have to listen to because it was always around. When my mother danced around the apartment, it became populous, with stories of her father's famous footwork, Motown madness with her college boyfriend Jose, the live drums from the New Rican village that seemed to fall in line behind her heels. We'd angle out the closet door with a full-length mirror so she could teach me her teenage moves, the mashed potatoes, the Watusi, the jerk. And then she'd spin out where I couldn't follow, spurred into a frenzy by the telltale cowbell and adoración. She was multiplied at both ends by everything that entered her and everything her dancing made me do. The movement she started in the living room, a culture of one. Given our isolation, it would take me years of living in New York to discern which of my mother's gestures and behaviors were the product of her powerful personality and which were Puerto Rican cultural commonplaces. It isn't always easy or even explanatory to name the difference. In her self-titled memoir published in 2011, Rita Moreno remembers moving to Washington Heights and sitting on the wrought iron grill base beside an open window while our new radio, shaped like a small cathedral, blared music to me and to any other appreciative Latinos within earshot. With neighbor girls, she put on costumes and spun through living rooms and even entertained on the rooftop. Rosie Perez credits her early dance training to the long summers she spent with her cousin Cookie in a dilapidated tenement that she kept clean as hell, doing the hustle in the kitchen while my wet set dried. I wonder if we'd call it training if we never came to see her dance on TV. Was I training too for the pedestrian life I have, in which I'm only famous for my dancing among the friends who follow my Instagram stories, for my gracelessly improvised life as a writer? The New York I live in now is more densely Caribbean than it was when Audre Lorde's mother suffered the unmusical noise of the North. Despite the city's constant war on public space, the air at least stays thick, stays wavy. These days, the uptown bodegas play bachata, and when I walk by, I like to let it inflect the rhythm of my walking. The music I don't have to listen to because it's everywhere. The dance I don't have to do because it's always in my body. It's a trope of Black diasporic dance to start small, as if walking, as if merely shifting weight, hitching a skirt. The better to dramatize the smooth continuum between everyday life and the high fever of the mess around. My mother sometimes worries about the way I walk, especially in Washington Heights, where my grandmother lived. She migrated pregnant with my mother 15 years after Rita Moreno in what Lauren Thomas describes as the post-war boom that nearly doubled New York City's Puerto Rican population in 2 years. We've come to call it La Gran Migración, taking a cue, as Puerto Ricans so often do, from African American history's Great Migration from the rural South to the urban North. I still visit my grandmother in the same neighborhood, the same building where my mother grew up. And yet it isn't the same. I was born post-crack and post-Reagan, so our block has always been that kind of hood to me. Now it's gentrifying. I admit wishing we could keep the ancestral apartment somehow, so I could live there with rent control. But she doesn't think I understand the danger. Around here, Latinas are always the ones hit hardest by street violence, she says. I don't know whether I am, in this case, her daughter or the daughter of my gringo father, so I ask. She thinks the corner boys can tell I'm Spanish. You can't do anything about the way you move. In the heat of conflict, I feel a pleasurable friction, the transmission alive in me. I wouldn't wish that way out of my body because I wouldn't wish my body away. It feels safer somehow to stay close to my mother, even when she says it isn't. I know that standing out can pose its own dangers, depending on how and among whom. Hughes or Neil Hurston, I feel most colored when I'm thrown against a stark white background. The image invokes the police precinct's mugshot as vividly as the museum's gallery wall. I also know that being singular, or at least the idea of being singular, has mattered to both my grandmother and my mother because it's mattered to their survival. Moving, out, away, up from poverty, is often easier alone, dissociated from the trope of the hungry horde. But even loneliness has a lineage, and I find myself feeling for it. That's the end of that excerpt. So this next excerpt is really short. It's about the opposite of loneliness. And I had to read this little piece. It's from a long story that I published in September about pandemic times dancing. And I gotta read what I wrote about Sheila, because, what else are we gonna do tonight but that? There's like a whole lead up, you have to understand it's, part of a whole collage, but here's a little portrait moment of Sheila, just a couple paragraphs. And this is from that day. At Coney, dances kept emerging, dying, and coming back to life in fragments. For a while, Sheila got involved in an extended exchange with a beautiful boy, sharp cheekbones, white Kangol, who clocked and matched her vintage footwork. Maybe he learned it at the studio like the white girls, or maybe his parents had been young at the Paradise Garage. Either way, he knew how to address her in that mother tongue. There was a live drum playing off the DJ the way there was on the boat, and a girl in a yellow leotard danced alone in the semicircle sketched by the rhythm's range. I wouldn't quite call it a latte, but what else was it? Even though I was at the edge of the drummer's sight line, I couldn't resist throwing out a couple of elementary piquetes, embarrassed a little when he caught them and hit me back. He knew the language. Most people understand live drums as traditional, which they are, but the mistake would be to situate tradition in the past, on an evolutionary timeline that sees other musical technologies as more contemporary. It is precisely because the drums have survived so long that they imply futures we cannot imagine. Across Africa, drums once sent messages from village to village, warning of wars and announcing celebrations. And in the vast diaspora, Cuba, Haiti, Honduras, Brazil, they speak beyond time to summon divinities or the dead. Particular percussive phrases invoke particular possibilities. In indigenous communities from the Amazon to the Caribbean, the shaman's maraca opens the channel to the spirit realm. The stretched hide and calloused hand, the scraped gourd and dried seeds call out to the scratched record and the fingers dancing over the mixer's dials. Tony Touch, he's called, Tony Toca. And even when the drum is an 808 and there's no live accompaniment, you can feel the human skin still in the game. Just as the live drums infused the party with a ceremonial energy, the party infused the inanimate world with dance. The wind caught the flowered sheet I held out for Sheila when she emerged dripping from the gray sea, and I began to swim my hips with it. Janet, she said. Yes, Janet. But also, Yemaya, Isadora Duncan, Sail, Bride, Shroud. Okay, that's just a little bit of Sheila for you. And now we're transitioning to the other theme of the evening, which is words we don't know how to read, that might not be words, and maybe they're pictures and they're very ancient. And maybe there's no relation between us and them, except that there is. So I've been working on a different chapter of my book about all the different petroglyphs, pre-colonial petroglyphs that you kind of stumble upon in the wilderness in Puerto Rico. And it's a very different part of the world in terms of its relationship to indigenous people and indigenous history than Central America. Different histories happens. But before colonization, the Caribbean was originally populated by people who came in canoes from Central America and the north of South America, like the Orinoco River Canal and then the coasts of Central America. So there's connections that are difficult to trace, but that we're just summoning a little bit into view here. There was nothing I could really excerpt from this chapter. It's too crazy and chaotic, but I'm gonna read a part anyway. And this part is a kind of retelling of the first European text written about indigenous people in the New World was written about people who lived on the island of Haiti. Parts of it are now DR, parts of it are now Haiti. And it's just called a Chronica by this guy, Ramon Pane. But that's our source for like early myths. And this is kind of my rendition. In the beginning, on another island called Haiti, in a place called Ganana, in a mountain called Cauta, there were 2 caves. Or perhaps there was one cave with 2 mouths, down there where the earth tunnels and turns and talks to itself. It can be hard to say where one emptiness becomes another. But we go on in the dark with the words we have. Amayoena. That was the cave of no importance. The other cave, Casibahagua, was named for the juice of the fruit of the hagua tree, black like the cave's interior, and the people born there would later learn to paint signs on the living pages of one another's skin. Hagua, achiote. The same red seed we use now for yellow rice. But we are not now as or who we were then. We weren't allowed to leave the cave except at night to stand guard, and when the sun struck the men who strayed, they became stones or trees or birds that sang at dawn. Only one of us, Vagoniona, could wander and remain as he was, human, and eventually he summoned the women among us and we followed him into the brightness, and for some reason beyond reason, we didn't change while we were with him, and we saw what we could of the world. How long did we lose ourselves among the mangroves and byways in our wide canoes before he left us on the island called Matinono? And where are we now if we are women? Are we still alone together in that mythic place? When we talk about time, we're just riding the tides of an unknown sea, unknown except for the storms it stirs in us. At the center of the spiral where we speak from our sickness, we say our men never stopped seeking our footprints in fresh mud when it rained, and the stolen children never stopped keening by the river like little frogs live wired by love to sing the same song, Toa Toa. There used to be so many songs we've forgotten. The frogs sang and the birds sang, and we sang too. About the frogs and the birds, and about ourselves, about our appetites and betrayals, about the people we left behind and the places we came to know, about the caves that mattered, and the caves that mattered less, but still deserved a name. When the Spanish came, they complained at our profusion of stories. So abundant, one cannot gather any fruit, said the admiral. 1,000 tall tales, too many to transcribe, said the friar. And when the one sent to mark our music down ran out of time and paper, he had to pass over many things. And we did not have writing, and we did not have books, and we did not tell the story the same way twice, and we did not tell the truth to the men who spoke to us like children. But we had a word for what we did, areito, and we still saved some songs for certain days and for certain sons of certain lords, until there were no more lords among us, and we were all just people, not even those people, but slaving and slavers, and scattered and strange to ourselves, with scraps of song stuck somewhere inside, making a rasping sound like an edged gourd or a screeching sound like a bat in daylight. Now, or more nearly now, we have a poet who says, "There's a song, but it's broken and it's useless to say it in pieces." Still, some days, we love what's useless. We spend ourselves singing along the warm and ragged shores, making flutes from the mouths of empty beer bottles, or finding sour cherries on the tangled way to some old wound in the earth we want to climb inside and search for signs. And if we cannot know if this is the very cave we came from, or the cave of no importance, maybe we were never meant to know. Maybe the words were meant to wander with us, sacred, indiscriminate, the wilderness within. Thank you.
Thank you. There's something so beautifully analogous about the writing about dance and the writing about these petroglyphs, I think. And listening to you reading this work about Sheila and then watching Sheila listening to you convinces me of something about writing that I think I wasn't sure of. So thank you. We're going to take a 7-minute break, roughly, and then when we come back, we'll listen to Sheila Maldonado.
It's from the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, am I dead? Oh, shit. Oh, are you serious? Oh, my God.
I guess two out of the three.
Because you're on the, I see you follow, and you were so on Matthew.
Too many stories.
I was checking with you in the front row. I was like, okay, the audience with me.
And I was doing something with Matthew this weekend, so I was like, oh, I'm a cop, so. I'm just student from
Oh, wow.
Like he wrote to the staff.
Thank you.
History. Their stuff is okay.
But like,
That was fascinating too.
Yeah.
I also love that thing you said that the grandmothers, they know this. I love that, because as someone who doesn't live there, you know, like, yeah, but it's and it's also, yeah.
About how much time has passed, and also that I like remember the reading of that project, Sheila while we were working on that, and at that point, I like looked at Sheila's like, she did like 8 years.
How long? 8 years? Yeah, the time passes.
New York now.
It got so messy. We're all the friends.
I know. I'm like, I can see people not
Exactly. Well, I think you're brilliant.
it's weird a little bit being gross and because I'm not the same as
No, but your pros is there's pros is therefore you know, chin bit.
That's why you started out.
Like I was good. Pros. Like there's really one detail. Like we did it very good. Yeah.
And you is the best ever. You're the best introductions. I know. Make one You get the most beautiful introductions. So safe. You find like the best instructors that are able to give it out. Yeah. But not bad. Like, I just didn't have the damn allergy.
Apparently. I was like, she was about to get me in so much trouble. I was like, Karina.
Wait, hold on. I gotta pee. Let me. Okay.
Okay, we're going to resume. Welcome back. And thank you again to Karina for a really special, luminous reading. There is so much particular architecture in Sheila Maldonado's work. I mean that at the level of the sentences, the lineation, the music, the sonic and rhythmic shapes of the poems, but I mean this also in terms of rooms, buildings, paths. How do people inhabit place? And how do we, inhabit language? And how does the dreaming or perceiving we do aloud in speech form the places we are part of? It is good to be here. It is good to have a here where we are listening to Sheila's poems, several walls, a church, literal and figurative. Here as in also a period of shared time across devices and geographies. Good evening to everybody on YouTube Live. Or here, a fabric of shared attention. Good evening to everybody listening in the future to this archive. Or here, the poetry which is both spatial and resistant to the notion of space as fixed. Sheila Maldonado writes, and yet writing is its own building. Writing extends the building. I'm from a long line of building extenders, a line that was broken. It is these breakages and fractures also, maybe especially, that forge place in the poems and in life, because these are the conditions or the sites from which we improvise endurance, relation, generosity, dignity, the ongoing decision the I will be among a we. Sheila Maldonado is the author of the poetry collections One Bedroom Solo and That's What You Get. She is a Canto Mundo Fellow and Creative Capital Awardee as part of Desveladas, a visual writing collective. She has served as an artist in residence on Governor's Island for the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council and as a cultural envoy to Honduras for the US State Department. She teaches English for the City University of New York and has led residencies as a teaching artist for the National Book Foundation and Teachers and Writers Collaborative. She has degrees in English from Brown University and creative writing and poetry from the City College of New York. She was born in Brooklyn and raised in Coney Island. Her family hails from Honduras. She lives in uptown Manhattan, where she's working on an ongoing project about a lifelong obsession with the ancient Maya. It is a great pleasure and honor to welcome Sheila Maldonado to the Poetry Project.
Thank you everyone for being here, and Kyle and Karina for the amazing words. I feel like I'm dead a little, honestly. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, I don't know where to begin quite, but I did want to say, yes, I wanted to read here a very long time, and then to read with Karina is especially awesome. Because we have so many, I think our conversations, I think we clicked right away from Canto Mundo, and the conversations, there's a great deal of overlap always, and between dancing and writing and the body, and I'm not really prepared to say all the things about it, but the theme basically was dancing glyphs tonight. I think that's what it was, and how, writing came from our bodies in a lot of ways. So I'm just gonna read. That's what I'll do. I'll feel better that way. Because I almost don't even understand all the things y'all said today about everything, me and the work. Yeah, I think I come from instinctual places a lot, and it's hard for me to sort of put it in the most critical language, but the critical language got to me at some point, and I ran away from it, like with Brown especially, and it kind of fucked me up. So I assimilated some things and came to New York, and New York helped sort of repiece that together, came back to New York. But yeah, I can go on and on, so I'm just gonna read. I'm gonna read from One Bedroom Solo, which is a book I put out 10 years ago now, and to 11. I'll read like 5 minutes, and then from That's What You Get, and then from what hopefully is the next book, or is the book of my life, Blood Letters. I'll just do something to make you guys nervous. Which is old shtick, my friends know this one. Anyway, Bubbles of Love. It's a translation, and I hope I'm never sued by Juan Luis Guerra. 1990, Juan Luis Guerra puts out his most famous song, and it goes like this. Quisiera ser un pez para tocar mi nariz en tu pecera y hacer burbujas de amor por donde quiera. Oh, pasar la noche en vela, mojado en ti, un pez. A girl deep in the recesses of Brooklyn hears this. I'd like to be a fish so that I could touch your nose to my fish tank and make bubbles of love everywhere. Oh, to spend the night. I don't know what this phrase means. Wet inside you, ah, fish. That always makes me feel better. It's like, oh, I've done it for life, forever. I'm gonna do Dancing Girls and then another song. And then maybe another one. Okay. Songs help because I didn't understand anything if it weren't for song. Dancing Girls. Since we're dancing girls, I'm gonna do Dancing Girls. Dancing girls make a circle the boys won't break. It began with two, playing show and tell with their moves, a conversation between bodies. We talk like we haven't before. I like the way you like yourself. A smile. Didn't even realize. A shoulder roll. We can be cool. Another girl sees our discussion. She wants to get a word in hip-wise. The boys stand about, arms folded, talking out the sides of their mouths. They watch as the circle expands, looking for a crack. I'm going to do another song. I'm going to do a few songs. She called me Puerto Rican, and immediately a Puerto Rican cornered me in the bathroom and was like, "You really think you're the most Puerto Rican?" Oh, really? I knew that I was going to get in trouble when you said that. I was like, I'm not the most Puerto Rican. This is the most Puerto Rican right here, right in the front row. And now they're going to get up into a fight with some Puerto Ricans actually, I'll do Pool, and then I'll do some Puerto Rican songs. Okay. Pool. Words have not held me up like that water does. I would like them to try, acquire a density that changes gravity, changes how I think of me, if I think of me. There I see blue, make breath into bubbles, let my arms become my legs. My body remembers how to be every time I step into that dimension of flow and glide. The water gets up in every crack of me, possessive, quietly, the way I like it. I thought it would let me go when I jumped in the deep end the first time, but it wrapped itself around me, inside me. I closed my lips, opened my eyes, my arms, and let it surface. Here, I wind toward a bottom I can't see. I flail about, trying to catch a current and embrace. I don't know how I'll rise again, how this will deliver the breath I need. Okay, two more from here and then I'll go. It's been a long time since I've looked at this book. Wow, really? Jesus Christ. It's been way too long. Okay. Andalusian. Even the succulents in Andalusia sing love songs, many unrequited notes from all the varieties of tough green leaves forgotten by water. A crowd of cacti holding their own, retaining what they can till the water returns, blushing greener, growing harder, pretending they don't care it's been gone. They're fans of melodies with origins like theirs that traveled across the ocean and back. This one cactus with limbs and bark like trees and yellow flowers on top sings Willie. Solo me alienta el deseo divino de hacerte mío, mas me destruye la incertidumbre que estoy pasando. Another one, like a bush with a wide leaf, croons Benny. Si vives escondida de tu propio corazón, por ti lo siento. Demuéstrate a ti misma la verdad, aunque te cause sufrimiento. A flower of only thick green petals, open like an onion blossom, belts Celia. No, 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 no sé si lo maldice o lo bendice mi corazón, porque usted sacó provecho de mi abuso. Idle time, purgatorial in dry heat, lived in love past, love imagined, fighting longing and delusion. I'll do one last song from here, because this book has a lot more songs and it's an Honduran song. And it's from the Garifuna that were the most proud Hondurans I ever met, so that's why I was interested in them. The most proud anyone from Honduras, really. New World Babylon remix, Honduran Punta Toast. Popular music from the Garifuna or Black Caribs. What I heard, I don't speak Garifuna, this is what I heard. Ibana sanugule bana dimesi punta pula pa mama nuguli kumutisa mama Africa puma si puritu mama dasi pama yukuli pama ibane ni puma di mama nuguli kumutisa fuidu acha. What I made up. En Jutigalpa, Comayagua, Tegucigalpa, Colomoncagua, de Banana República, Fama, África, Aragua, Caribe, Llama, así, de la costa de drama, conquistador no cayó el idioma, el tambor con la lengua en la palma, ahí está. What I made it means. En Jutigalpa, Comayagua, Tegucigalpa, Colomoncagua, of Banana Republic fame, Africa, Arawak, Caribbean calls, like this, from the coast of drama. Conqueror didn't quiet the language of the drum with its tongue in the palm. There it is. And now on to That's What You Get. All right. Oh my God. All right. This little thing has been very surprising. It just messes with me all the time. Poet in a Shade of Jade. I'm so jealous of how poor you are, of how you are poor. Your particular stilo pobre, the way you put no cash and no money together is uncanny. This aesthetic lack of change combined with lack of dollars is very difficult to duplicate, and I hate you for that. I was gonna go hear you read from your new collection of unpaid bills just the other day. But you get readings all the time. You have your pick of not being paid or being unpaid. You get to ride the subway back and forth on your own dime and you buy your performance alcohol. I'll make it one of these days, give you dirty looks as you read and rake in your air bucks. What I look forward to most is not tolerating how you hoard your poverty. Tell no one your secret. You must have some malefactor, mentor, mentiroso, who further mystifies the acquisition of wealth and points you in the direction of the dead end. They're all really random ass poems. Epic Laundry. A former nonprofit staffer turned real estate agent tells me, laundry is too political. He sends it out now. He can afford to. I am still in the laundry struggle, the managing of the cloth, the managing of the time it takes to manage the cloth, the hard labor of the destitute, heavy lifting and carting into a top floor elevator out the door to the street, home washer dryers, the stuff of TV fantasy. At the laundromat, I am confused for the worker women in my uniform of invisibility, bralettes in an old dark t-shirt and high water sweats, hair pulled back, strays flying loose, my robust skin of servitude, the washerwoman by a river scraping rags on a board, changing your dollar for quarters. I don't have any on me. I don't know what's wrong with the machine. Don't ask me what I charge by the pound. I have my own epic laundry like debt, weeks of neglect, panty shortages and crises, all the holy t-shirts that must be preserved. I am here for my Zen penance, my workout in the back, sweating deep in the dryer heat, headphones on dancing as I manipulate my rags. One owner, admiring my zeal, showed me her tricks, pulled me and my fitted bedsheet out onto the tiled floor, drawing me into her secret fold. I have since betrayed her with a facility closer to my home, my burden too great to wheel 3 extra blocks, forsaking communion for convenience. There I wash and fold with true toilers, non-owners, fabric slaves, loveless and rightfully so. We share no confidences, only questions like complaints. My devotion to repetition, precision creases, organized by Roy G. Biv, all underground, all unnoticed, my order private. Stop asking me to do yours. I'm gonna drink the water a lot because my allergies are kicking my ass. Submit, resist. Submit to the line of students as questions. Resist their tall tales. Submit to the stage of the classroom. Resist the despair of unpreparedness, the blank stares, blank papers. Submit to the penal scholastic. Resist the hourly rage. Submit timesheet, essay, humility. Resist the conspiratorial bank. Remit, subsist. Submit to the clutch of the breast. Resist the song of the uterus. Submit to the will of the crotch, to the ass jet, to the bike seat. Resist memory, failure, humidity. Submit to the one breeze. Resist gerunds. Submit to the peripathetic. Resist the howl of the building dawn. Submit to the raindrops on the air conditioner. Resist the caffeine tremor. Submit to the sweat lodge. Resist the butter cookie. Submit to the butter cookie. Resist the baby squeal behind the neighbor door. Submit to architecture and its facades. Resist gatekeepers. Submit to disorientation, to starting over and again. I'm gonna do some of the haikus. There are like all these like shorts in there that are really what I write. I write little short things mainly and just piece it together because I don't have time. I never have time. Haikus, Coney Island. Sleepy oven pork, seagull lampposts, nursing home projects, niece blanketed with dolls, our voices, Ma's chanclas clicking in the hallway. Samaritan. When someone is outside the turnstile waving their wrist, asking for a swipe, I am often ready to help out with my unlimited Metro card as I exit the station, because that is just the kind of person I am, thinking of others. Brooklyn really betrays you. Don't tell me you're fucking from there till you get kicked out. I'm not human and universal. I'm alien and local. I'm gonna read this for my allergies. Drop day. Today, a day of drowning and dying in postnasal drip and Dominican Drake. Postnasal Drake, Dominican drip. A day delirious and drizzy, a drizzle of drizzy, drowning me. Drowsy from drug interactions, Drake interactions, dextromethorphan and Drake. Dominican drowsy in post-racial drip. Drowning in dream, dropping in dizzy, drip, Drake, drip. That's because Hotline Bling came out on one of my allergy days, and it was blasting from and I was just like, oh my God. Like dying from allergies and Hotline Bling throughout Washington Heights. Dying. Okay, I'm gonna read a Bjork one. This is like my identity for here. Meeting for worship, the night Bjork DJ'd in BK for GH. My lady, the muse who makes sun rays of strobe lights, attracts an overlooked demographic, Quakers of Central American descent. I came late to get into her very exclusive line wrapping up the block for a tiny club, but it turned out I had people there, a high school mate, the 10th one from the door. We were not close, but we were kindred long ago in a Quaker day school. She Guatemalan, me Honduran, outliers in a Caribbean borough. Therefore, fans of Icelandic dance queens. Our muse is a shaman witch from a land of no singing, banned by Danish conquerors. Why she chant sings, almost spoken word in her delivery. Online, my new old friend told me Guatemala was a land of no dancing, frowned upon like footloose, frowning the remnants of conquest. We showed up for our sister representative of volcanoes, of shaky ground like our sliver, of arts erased by conquerors, apocalypses, the weather. There to praise and tremble before her, erupt, reduce to rubble, remake. All we have is our devotion, how we earn our spots on the floor, identify who is from a silence and explode. Okay, I'm gonna do, I don't even know what my time is, all right. Winter is Rihitsu. My vagina was your death therapist. City of villains and failures. Some days I can't take my hardline friends. They can't handle my inability to draw a line. Did stop writing at least once to check phone like I'm on call for a job I don't have. There is survival of a genocide in the blood memory. Does that make us as afloat as we are today? I don't know, but there is something essentially crappy. Today, I'm focusing on the forms. I'm not thinking about the countries exploding, but they're behind us all, exploding their forms. The first lesson of 40 is let go. The people you want don't want to stay. What if you lost your gods, or are just finding them again? It is the Ides, a day to kill Caesars, to betray Caesars, a day to fuck Caesars, fuck them over, take the throne. It is a day to take the throne. I am taking a mental health day. Professors do that, take a day. I call myself professor because someone else just did. Schools are asylums, I told them. I've been dealing with some cases, and I'm a case myself. That's facts right there. Okay, I don't even, okay, I'm gonna do maybe one or two more from here and then get out of here and go to the other thing. Oh, mama, I gotta do mama. Mama. Great. Blood to the hospital. Mother, solitude, blood, hospital. Father, darkness in the middle. Mother, night, spitting. Dad. Sangre al hospital. Madre en la soledad, escupiendo sangre. Soledad más madre en el hospital. Soledad más sola. No le hacen ni madre en el hospital donde murió padre. dad, dad, dad. Madre en la oscuridad, al hospital de padre, en medio de la noche, sangre al hospital. Madre en la noche, al hospital de sangre, escupiendo padre en la oscuridad. Dad, dad, dad. Okay. I'm gonna do temporary statement, I think, but maybe I'll do Ricky's version in Spanish. I'll do Ricky's. Ricky translated it last year for this launch. So I've read this a million times, so you'll have to find it in English. Let's see if we can do it. So Ricky Maldonado, tocaya de Puerto Rico, translated this, and it rocked my world. Declaración temporera. No creas que te conmuevo, llevo perdiendo sutileza. Te doy en la cabeza hasta que caigas en cuenta. Soy un cliché, un cavernícola, una cavernícola. Soy la cueva. No soy gentil ni radical. Me enojo. No siempre soy específica. Me siento molida. Pierdo mi fuerza. Dejo imagen con su imagen, palabra con su palabra. Tomo demasiadas fotos. Soy literal hasta el carajo. Intimido hasta en mensajes de texto. Otra vez yo con mi rasgo neandertal. Me resisto a comprender. Sabes que lo entiendo porque lo resisto. Se me olvida cómo soltar líneas. Esta línea me hace trizas. Uso yo demasiado. Sí sé que mi yo en la página no es mi yo real. Sí lo entiendo. No sé si tú lo entiendes. No sé quién soy ahora mismo. He perdido a un gran amor. Estoy sufriendo un líder atroz. No sé a dónde ir ni quién ser. Busco recuperar el ritmo de mis días. No puedo ser amable en la mañana, ni puedo ser amable punto. Estoy de luto, extraño ser tocada. Extraño conversaciones que tuve en el pasado. Extraño esa conversación que tuve con mi pasado. Se me está alejando. No me importa eliminarlo. Quiero saber, sin embargo, a quién dirigirme. Okay, I'll be fair. Should I be fair?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, I'll speak English. I'll be fair. I know. I agree. You don't have to be fair. Temporary statement. I am not poignant. I am losing nuance. I beat you over the head. I am cliche. A caveman. A cavewoman. A cave. I am not genteel or radical. I am pissed. I am not always specific. I am beat. I am losing steam. I leave image with image and word with word. I take too many pictures. I'm literal as fuck. I bully my way through a text. I barrel my way through. That Neanderthal thing again. I resist understanding. I understand because I resist. I've forgotten how to break a line. The line breaks me. I use I too much. I do get that the I on the page is still not me. I do get that. I don't know if you get that. I don't know who I am in this time. I've lost a great love. I'm suffering a terrible leader. I don't know where to turn or who to be. I'm looking for my days to reacquire some rhythm. I can't be kind in the morning. I can't be kind. I am mourning. I miss touch. I miss conversations I had in the past. I miss the conversation I had with my past. It is leaving me. I don't mind erasing. I want to know who to address, though. I'm gonna do this last part, and I think it logged out. So I gotta do it there.
A little technical difficulties there, folks. Everyone just, close your eyes for 30 seconds.
10 minutes left.
Cool.
Thank you. So somehow this will make it into the world. I don't know when or how. This is Blood Letters in Amateur Maya's Field Journal, and it's a book about a narrator obsessed with the ancient Maya of what is now Central America. So like I said, this is part of the conversation that we've been having a while, that I've had with a million people, truthfully, like who are my friends who think about all the deep things. And yeah. So the Maya were the creators of the first writing system in the Western Hemisphere. Most of that writing now exists on building walls and pottery. Only 4 known legible books or codices of the Maya survived the Spanish conquest and the tropical climate. The narrator of this book has roots in New York and Honduras, homes of deteriorating empires, new and old. She imagines herself as a modern version of ancient scribes, Ish Sib, she of the writing. Ancient Maya writing is image-based. Most of these images are my own. Thank you to the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, where the residency became almost like an installation piece. Thank you to Gabriel Garcia Roman and Indlala and Kobe, who shot and influenced a lot of the images here. The ancient Maya scribes, the modern Maya, and Maya scholars who keep the art and writing alive. Shout out to a personal Mayanist named Brian Just, who's at Princeton. Thank you to my family, the elders and ancestors, also Club Kitchen and Spa Castle for giving me visions, house music all night long. Okay. So this is Holy Heat Semana Santa Spa, and that's my mom. But she's like a character mama. And 2 words you need to know at the end of this poem are petate and pop. Both mean mat, as in what you lay on the floor, and a grid. Petate is mat in Spanish, and nawa, pop is mat in Maya. Holy Heat, Semana Santa Spa. At the table in the Queen's Korean Spa restaurant during Easter spring break, Ma was remembering Semana Santa in Honduras, how they couldn't do anything from Wednesday to Friday because they were remembering how Christ suffered in this time, how he was captured, how he was crucified. They couldn't even pick up a broom to perform the cleaning penance they enjoyed so well. They sat there in the heat with the memory of an old story. From the table, she watched amazed all these people, including herself now, who didn't stop all they were doing during the days Christ suffered. I asked her, what about before Christ? What did they do then? And she remembered the little bit of school she had where they told her about el puesto del sol, the position of the sun, and un dios de maíz, a god of corn. I had never heard her remember a god that wasn't Christ. The kitchen called our number and I picked up our order from the counter. After we ate, we went to sweat in the rooms of gold and jade. All I think about is your father here, she said. Because he worked with stones and gems, I answered in my head. Because we were the Maya and jade was our gold, I imagined. Para los riñones, she went on. These stones, this heat, might have helped the kidneys that failed him. But he wouldn't take care, get air, leave the house, come to a place like this, give his body some relief. She sat up in the dome sauna, eyes closed, belly unfolding beneath her, and I saw that she looked like my brother, that he looked like her, that I looked like them, that we are this tribe of bellies unfolding. She sat up in the jade room, sweat dripping out memory, vessel emptying on a straw mat, petate pop mat in the matrix of time, one position in the universe, ancients charting a figure on a mat as a point on a grid, one point in a domed hut, remembering releasing. This is, I write a book my mother doesn't read. Yo escribo un libro que no lea mi mamá. Yo escribo un libro que no lea mi mamá. Yo escribo un libro que no lea mi mamá. Yo escribo un libro que no lea mi mamá. Yo escribo un libro que no lea mi mamá. Window on my part-time employer in the one building that was once two. I wrote this facing the current World Trade Center from the residency with LMCC on Governor's Island. I could see the building from the island and the island from the building, and the Maya scribe was thrilled by that. Window on my part-time employer in the one building that was once two. I'm writing to the building of writing that is continually giving us the boot. Writing alone can't hold it up. I want to say writing created it, but it might have just assisted. And yet writing is its own building. Writing extends the building. I'm from a long line of building extenders, a line that was broken. That line can be broken. It can be outlawed and driven out of town, the word finding refuge in the mountain, the mouth, the memory. It can be fired and replaced, a thread erased. It can't all be put down. It rises up, an ancestor told me. A few ancestors told me that. I will be an ancestor telling you to rise up, but as a present-day person, I tend to lay there. I've been thrust from the building of letters, syllables, characters. They're scattered, and I lack the will to gather them. It is fine to lay among them. Let them scramble. Eventually, I will get up and put them together again. It won't be like I imagined. It will be immediate postscript. For a minute there, my keyboard stopped working. I was talking about letters and they wouldn't come. I did not lay calmly. It was not a calm, it was a panic. I am wrong to say I could be so calm. I would fight for a while. I would fight to get back to the letter, to get back to the building, fight to make a new one. How I want to be remembered, 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 how I want to be remembered. The rituals must be recorded. The scholars tell me this is Lady Ka'aba's shuk wearing the fat rounded cross-like emblem of her lord, bird jaguar, on her wipil, her dress, the cloth. In this drawing of a 1,500-year-old doorway carving in what is now Mexico, she is looking up at the vision of herself as a warrior goddess. The goddess version of her emerges from the mouth of a snake made from the smoke of her blood, burning on rope and cloth in a bowl before her. The vision serpent, Ka'awil. A scholar told me it is white-boned. What scholars tell you is subject to change. It is a ritual recorded upon the accession of bird jaguar to the throne. He is taking his place. The lady honors it with this vision rite. The sculptor scribe honors it with this carving. The ritual must be recorded. We might never know its full meaning. I am mostly about the vision serpent because who wouldn't be? Look at it and its gaping maw. It has a double head. I used to think the warrior was part of the snake, but I wasn't looking well enough. The scholarship means looking closer and closer, re-seeing, getting a better vision to work from, a sharper picture, a clearer drawing. I am here to get closer. How a vision is made, how an image is made, how writing is made from image, how a story is made from sight, how we've been telling this story for a long time. We've been doing this forever. How we are some of the first to do it. I say we because I think of these people on the wall, and I will believe I am their blood for as long as I bleed. My blood burning on a rope in the smoke. I see them as me. I'm on bent knee, bent neck, in my weepy looking up at the warrior goddess version of me. I bow backward before the spear I brandish. I'm delirious from the blood leaving my tongue. All I want is the books back. We're never gonna get them back. They're just gonna be made and burned, 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 be made and burned. Thank you guys. So it is a dream to have you here.
Thank you for letting us share that period of time with you. It was really special. Thank you. And thank you to Karina also. And thank you all for being here. Our next reading is a week from today with Megan Fernandez and Anthony Thomas Lombardi. And then on Friday, April 1st, we will have a book launch for Rachel Mannheimer's Earth Room. So I hope we see you soon. And good night.
Are you gonna do the